Okay, now we are live. All right. So, this episode is called Why It Is Important to Cultivate Our Garden in the Age of AI. And I'm doing this episode based on a spin-off by a book written by a French philosopher called Voltaire. And I was really inspired reading the synopsis of this book. I have not read the entire book in full honesty. Um, but I think the book has some important messages that I want to incorporate. I don't know if a lot of people are aware of Voltaire um, in the current age, and if many are aware of one of his most, I guess, controversial at that time, but really, really significant pieces of literature that he wrote. And Candide was published in 1759. It's a satirical masterpiece written in response to the naive optimism of the Enlightenment, particularly the philosophy of Gottfried. I don't know who that is. Through his protagonist, Voltaire dismantles the idea that everything is for the best in the best of all possible worlds. So, a little biography on Voltaire before I get into the actual excerpt of this episode. Voltaire was born in 1695 in Paris, France. He was one of the greatest of all French writers, philosophers, although only a few of his works are still read. He continues to be held in worldwide repute as a courageous crusader against um, tyranny, bigotry, and cruelty. Though its critical capacity, Through its critical capacity, wit, and satire, Voltaire's work vigorously propagates an ideal for progress to which people of all nations have remained responsive. His long life spanned the last years of classism and the eve of the revolutionary era. During this age of transition, his works and activities influenced the direction taken by Western civilization. So, the themes of this episode include messages from the book Candide, written by Voltaire, artificial intelligence, and the game theory of civilization. Why we must cultivate our garden in the age of AI. So this begins in 18th century France and ends in the 21st century with artificial intelligence, social media algorithms, geopolitical competition, and perhaps the future of civilization itself. At first glance, Candide seems like an odd choice for discussing AI. It is not. And I did an analysis, of course, I did use AI to do this sort of cross pollination of the ideas from Candide. The other is arguably the most transformative technology humanity has created since the Industrial Revolution. So, how do human beings relate to reality when their models of reality become more convincing than reality itself? All right, let's break that down. The map and the territory. So, here is a little context on the book Candide. So, Candide begins with a young man who believes he understands the world, not because he has experienced the world, because he has inherited a model from culture, from society. And in the book, he has a teacher, and the teacher's name is Pangloss. And Pangloss tells him everything is for the best in the best of all possible worlds. And as I'm reading this, I'm absorbing this and I'm integrating this as well from my end. And as I go through this script and read you guys the dissection and the cross pollination of, including the current times of AI with the message that Candide is trying to express, there's a lot I'm going to integrate also. So everything is for the best in the best of all possible worlds. This isn't merely optimism, it is a complete explanatory system. No matter what happens, the theory remains intact. If a city is destroyed, the theory is still true, saying city is destroyed because there's a reason it's happening. If catastrophe strikes somehow, the theory is still true. Theory cannot fail because every observation is interpreted to support the theory. We are we are very attached to the theory. Now consider modern civilization. What are our Panglossian systems today? So it's saying Pangloss's teacher is giving this kid, Candide, a mental model and saying this is how you should see the world through. So, what are our current Panglossian systems today? Some people believe technology inevitably creates progress. Others believe capitalism inevitably creates prosperity. Others believe democracy inevitably produces justice. Others believe AI inevitably leads to doom or leads to abundance. Many of these positions function less as observations and more as identities. Human beings have a remarkable ability to become attached to abstractions. We do. We fall in love with our maps, and eventually we stop looking at the territory. So, civilization is a prediction engine. Now, let's introduce AI. At its core, artificial intelligence is a prediction machine, right? That's what learning algorithms do. They are a prediction machine. Large language models do not understand reality in the way humans imagine, said by a large language model. They generate probable continuations based on patterns. Each civilization has its unique model. Each civilization creates models. Religions create models. Yes. Every religion is a set of constructs and models that we view the world through, that we make sense of reality through, and make sense of whatever intelligent design we notice, intelligence in nature. Political ideologies create models, cultures. These models help coordinate millions of people. It's a model we all align on, and billions of us move through the world with these shared models. Without them, collective action becomes impossible. But every model eventually encounters reality, and hence you see reality's is the ultimate stress test. And over the years, we can see how our models have evolved over generations, over civilization, going from caveman to being in strict religious societies to now introducing the scientific model, which shifted a lot of the way we view reality. So, a model that cannot adapt eventually breaks because reality is the ultimate stress test. And we, as humans, or at least some of us, are constantly testing reality. And it is a very chaotic process. This is where Candide becomes deeply relevant. Throughout the model, reality repeatedly humiliates theory. We have our best educated guesses that we navigate through as a civilization over the course of time, some of great scientists, great thinkers, and we come up with new theories, new ways of making sense of reality because reality is consistently humiliating our outdated theories, and which is a good thing. And sometimes I wish we were more efficient at it. The world refuses to conform to Pangloss's predictions, and yet Pangloss continues defending the model. Pangloss, again, being Candide's teacher, because abandoning the model would require abandoning his identity. So, as we are tied to our religious identity, we're tied to political identities, we are tied to ethnic identities, all of this cultural identities, because it is a form of attachment to those identities that help us stay tied to a larger whole, which is beneficial in some ways, but we need to be flexible with our identities so we can grow and expand and also not be narrow minded. And that is easier said than done, even for me. The game theory of belief. Let's examine this through the lens of game theory. Imagine two players. Player one seeks truth, player two seeks social belonging. And sometimes seeking truth comes with the sacrifice of giving up social belonging. For some of us, most people assume these are the same thing. Often they're not. In many situations, being correct is less rewarded than being accepted. When you challenge an existing zeitgeist within the current culture, you are not rewarded, you're scorned. And therefore, this is exactly why Socrates was condemned to death in Athenian society. He was, right, this um, immaculate scholar, of course, but he constantly questioned the establishment, and he eventually got put to death by the very people he was trying to help, by the very society that he loved very much, condemned him to death. So seeking truth with a sacrifice of social belonging comes with its consequences. Throughout history, tribes survived through cohesion by being rewarded for being accepted. Groups that coordinated effectively outcompeted groups that did not. As a result, evolution may have optimized humans not merely for truth, but for coordination. So, this is why group thinking becomes really dangerous. And this is why, as I've talked in even my previous episodes, we need conformists and nonconformists. We need people that question existing structures. I don't think society will thrive or the human species will thrive, but us just constantly striving to be cohesive. Evolution may have optimized humans not merely for truth, but for coordination. Seeking truth introduces disruption, chaos. This changes everything because now beliefs serve two functions. Function one, understanding reality. Function two, signaling group membership. The second function is frequently underestimated. Yes, it is. And I have underestimated it time and time again. And this is why sometimes I have gone through my lone wolf phases. Many beliefs survive not because they are true, but because they facilitate cooperation. They reduce uncertainty, they establish trust, they signal loyalty. In game theory terms, beliefs often operate as coordination equilibria. The content matters less than the coordination benefit. This explains why obviously flawed ideas can persist for centuries, because an entire culture could believe in outdated ideas and somehow it persists because it is the most accepted and it's what keeps the group cohesion prolonged, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it is leading to progress per se. And it explains why AI creates such disruption. AI dramatically lowers the cost of generating narratives. So now this leads to the information ecology crisis. For most of human history, information was scarce. Yes. Can you imagine a time before the internet? I can because I lived through it. Completely different reality. I was very, very young, but it was the only way to really expand your scope of knowledge, right, was go to the library, reading a book, talking to a scholar. Today, information is effectively infinite. Through this phone that I'm recording this episode through, I have ChatGPT downloaded. I have used Gemini. I can just conjure knowledge by asking a question. That is pretty remarkable. The bottleneck is no longer access, the bottleneck is discernment. We are becoming surrounded by synthetic realities. AI can generate articles, videos, voices, images, entire ideological ecosystems, entire virtual influencers, bunch of AI slop, entire religions. Civilization increasingly resembles an evolutionary ecosystem of narratives competing for attention. The winners are not necessarily the most accurate narratives. You should, I hope when people read my videos, I hope that they are, for the most part, being skeptical, what the hell is this lady saying? You should do your own research of all the narratives being broadcasted online. Check for credentials. And in this day and age, it is so easy to do that, to validate information, to have healthy skepticism. The winners are the most adaptive, emotionally engaging, most shareable, most mimetically fit. Ideas become organisms, attention becomes energy, algorithms become selection mechanisms. So, leading to the next section of the podcast here, the new Pangloss machines. Again, Pangloss is a teacher in to Candide, right? And I think the Pangloss machines, meaning all the theories, the constructs. Imagine AI trained specifically to reinforce your worldview. That is exactly what AI is being fed. It's being fed all the human worldviews. Whatever you believe, it validates. Whatever you fear, it amplifies. Whatever tribe you belong to, it strengthens. Such systems would be extremely popular. They would always be dangerous. So this is exactly what AI was designed to do for the most part, and that is why it's really important to be able to see through that and prompt it in a way where it actually challenges you. What AI outputs is to please you. It is to stroke your ego and to validate whatever you are already expressing to it. And the reality testing disappears. So saying that Voltaire's Pangloss would become software. The civilization could fragment into millions of self enforcing realities. So it is still important to question the output of these algorithms, of these agentic machine learning algorithms. And that's why having a human in the loop is still important. We are still architecting, right, the reality of, or the data that is fed into the AI. And human data in itself is fragmented and questionable. So therefore, whatever human data AI is spewing out needs to be questioned. The prisoner's dilemma of civilization. This is the next section. So civilization itself faces a gigantic prisoner's dilemma. So this is a recurring pattern in complex systems. Locally irrational behavior can create globally irrational outcomes. AI development may become another. So game theorists call this equilibrium trap. Everyone acts rationally, everyone loses collectively. Voltaire understood something similar. Human suffering often emerges not from evil individuals, but from dysfunctional systems. Next section, the search for El Dorado. So this is a fascinating section from Candide. It involves this scenario of El Dorado. Imagine a utopian society, no poverty, no corruption, no conflict, right? Dream come true for all of us. We created this absolutely immaculate system that produces ultimately zero poverty, no corruption. Everything is peaceful. Candide discovers paradise in the book. It's going through this, the book introduces this scenario. And so Candide discovers this paradise and then he leaves. But why? Because human beings are not merely optimization engines. The moment paradise becomes familiar, desire migrates elsewhere. So it is not possible to actually achieve that utopian society. There will always be dysfunction because it's human nature. Many futurists imagine a world of abundance, unlimited knowledge, productivity, entertainment, but abundance does not automatically generate meaning. Meaning emerges through participation, through struggle, contribution, becoming, not merely through consumption. This is one of the blind spots in technological thinking. We often optimize outcomes while neglecting meaning. The next two sections are my favorite, and then we're going to conclude this episode. Cultivating the garden. This is a key message in the book, Cultivating the Garden. At the end of Candide, after all the chaos, all the suffering, all the philosophical arguments, Candide reaches a simple conclusion. And I have come across this from other entrepreneurs, from other just, prominent thinkers, however they may broadcast themselves. We must cultivate our garden. I didn't fully I think I had my own depiction of what that meant, but I didn't realize that it was originally a statement from this book. And who knows, maybe Voltaire got this from another philosopher and just passed it on. This is one of the most misunderstood lines in literature. It is not a call to withdrawal. It's not saying ignore the world. It is saying begin where your agency exists. We must cultivate our garden. What does that mean? In that statement, we must cultivate our garden. The garden is a metaphor for the sphere where action meets responsibility. What are the variables within the garden symbolizing, I guess, our reality or, right, the human psyche, relationships, work, community, character, craft? The garden is your all controllable feedback loop. It's the controllable feedback loop. It's that awareness. It's that metacognition, not the entire system, not all of civilization, the part where your actions actually matter, where you have agency. And we will bring this home in the final interpretation of Candide. So now moving into a Jungian interpretation, my favorite. As you guys know, I am a Jungian coach and a Jungian psychology enthusiast. I wish I could say that I'm a Jungian analyst, but alas, I have decided not to pursue studying Jungian psychology academically, as it takes 8 years to become a Jungian analyst. 8 years. It's a long haul and lots of money to pay for university. Viewed through the lens of Carl Jung, Candide is a story of individuation. So individuation, if you're listening in and you don't know what that is, look it up. It is a term coined in Jungian psychology. It's a term that exemplifies the path of differentiating from, just psychological maturity and creating your own values and becoming your own person on this journey of life. So the innocent child believes reality should conform to ideals. The mature adult learns that reality contains contradiction, beauty and horror, love and betrayal, creation and destruction. Not just the chaos of the cosmos, but chaos of a human society. And you cannot eliminate paradox. Paradox is inevitable. We're all walking contradictions, and you cannot absolve it all. It's inevitable. We will encounter it time and time again, and it will be absolutely frustrating, and you will want to punch a wall. The task is to integrate it. AI presents civilization with a similar challenge. We are projecting our hopes and fears onto our technological creations, and I've already said this in previous episodes. All our utopian fantasies, apocalyptic fantasies, desires for salvation, fears of extinction. I mean, have I pondered about extinction of the human species? Absolutely. I mean, if anything, I think we will lead to our own demise. And we have time and time again gotten very close. AI has become a collective dream screen. The way we talk about AI often reveals more about humanity than about AI itself. All right, the final reflection, bringing it all home. Perhaps Voltaire's deepest lesson is that wisdom begins when certainty ends. I don't know shit. You don't know shit. You can study all the books in the world. It's endless. It's infinite. Not cynicism, not nihilism, not blind optimism, but humility. The recognition that our models are always incomplete, that reality is larger than ideology, larger than economics, than politics, than AI. The future may not belong to the smartest systems, it may belong to the systems that remain most connected to reality. We can try. Civilizations that survive may not be those with the strongest ideologies. They may be those capable of updating their beliefs. And this is what Voltaire is talking about, cultivating your garden. I think ultimately what that statement is embodying is us updating our beliefs, our constructs, our mental models as we navigate through life. We have to, and it may seem painful, but it must be done. Those capable of learning, those capable of adaptation. In game theoretic language, survival belongs not to the player with a perfect strategy, but it belongs to the player capable of revisiting a strategy when the game changes. And perhaps that is what cultivating the garden really means. And that's bringing it home, revising your strategy, updating your theories, updating your mental models, not holding on to the old ones, to continuously refine one's local patch of reality while remaining humble before the complexity of the whole, not chasing certainty, believing you have found all the answers and you are all powerful being. I'm sure we've all, I don't know, some people in power have encountered this, not worshiping progress, not surrendering to despair, but participating consciously in the unfinished experiment of civilization. The world will never be perfect. The map will never fully capture the territory, and the game will never be completely understood. What game are we playing? Humanity. Most likely, we're just destroying ourselves. We feel like we're cultivating ourselves, but there's always this pattern of progression and regression simultaneously. But the garden still needs tending, and that work remains ours. Because in an age of artificial intelligence, synthetic realities, and competing narratives, Voltaire's advice may be more relevant than ever. All right, so that was We Must Cultivate Our Garden in the Age of AI. And in a way, I've been cultivating my garden more or less with discernment using AI. And of course, in other ways, trying to accelerate the process of digesting and absorbing books, especially pieces of different literature and history that I was not aware of, all the endless information. If you enjoyed this episode and if you appreciate some of the content that I share, please subscribe, follow me on my Substack. Um, Also, give me a follow on my Instagram if you're interested in knowing what kind of coaching I offer. You can reach out to me. I offer a form of coaching called Jungian coaching, and that can be applied across different dimensions. It could be a form of life coaching, it could be a form of career coaching. My coaching methodology helps you connect with yourself and your own wisdom, and that is what I love about Jungian psychology is it brings you back to your own agency to cultivate your own garden. So thank you for tuning in and thank you for your attention. Remember to cultivate your garden and stay tuned for the next episode.